But a friend I had seen probably 10 years ago got on to me in a state going, Carl, can you help this girl, Suzanne Jackson? I hadn't a clue who she was. Like, and I was like, yeah, what's up? She goes, oh, she's on the show, and she's come down the stairs, seeing me on the third week of the show. And they all come down, they wave to the, the cameras and the audience before they do their dance. And halfway down the stairs, she waved, and when she was bringing her hand back down, her bracelet caught in her hair, right? And in that moment, she started having a panic attack on the stairs.
Right.
Eventually got down onto the dance floor, and all her moves were gone, you see, because when we go into that emotional state, all logic and reason is gone, right? So all the practice she put in the week before was gone out of her head. And basically, the other guy dragged her through the routine, seemingly, just sort of bringing her around like she didn't know what to do. Anyway, she was giving up the show. She wasn't going back, and everybody was panicking because she was one of the favorites, like. And they were on to me then, I think it was the Monday, after the show, and she says, she'll be down to you Tuesday. And I said, I'm fully booked Tuesday. Because, and again, even like hypnosis never stops, because for me, once I knew who she was, I realized I had to deal with her in a certain way because she is celebrity status and all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about having the control as a hypnotist and being the authoritative one without being authoritative, obviously, but just having that silent, authority, right? So I was saying, I can't see her on Tuesday. And she goes, what about Friday? And I said, no, I'm away Friday. So I didn't make it easy for them, but I wanted that, I wanted them to sort of fit in with the process. So I said, look, I can see her. I said, actually, I can be there at 1 o'clock on Friday, but that's no other time. Now I could have, but I wanted to get it this way. So eventually she came and she's in the waiting room, and I opened the door, and I'd never, ever done this before in my life, because I'll always know the client's name before they open the door. Even if I have to run back up the stairs and go back on the calendar, if I've forgotten, I'll get it before I open that door. And when I opened the door to her, I said, sorry, what's your first name? Which I did know her first name, but what it did was it brought her celebrity status right down. Okay, and that's part of it, and trust me.
Brilliant, great idea.
Yeah, well,
I've never heard of her myself, but I don't watch the mainstream TV at all.
She's
but I'm sure
entrepreneur, and she has this massive makeup company called So Sue Me or something like that. But she's massive, in the world of business and all that. She's huge, she's a millionaire, self-made and well done. But she came in and she was beautiful girl, because a lot of these celebrities sometimes are a little bit up their own ass, some of them, but she was lovely, she was genuine, which is great. Brilliant. So I had to play, and I really didn't know who she was, until people told me. So we did a session anyway, and we went back to an ISC, initial sensitizing event, of 3 years of age. Anybody who understands regression would know what an ISC is, but anyway, she went back to 3 years of age anyway on the electric kids bicycle, the battery operated ones. She was at the parents were at a friend's house, and there's a birthday party, and she got on one of the other kids' electric bikes for the birthday, and when she turned the throttle, the bike went this way. But anybody who's got on a motorbike for the first time, I know it's the hardest thing to do is stop it. And she went straight into a wall, 3 years of age, and she smashed the wall, and she ended up with stitches. And that was the first time that she was in a situation where she lost control. And then coming down the stairs, because it matched that scenario, not the same. What's in the event's not the same, but the feeling was the same. So she went back to 3-year-old that had the panic attack. So I think it was 3 hours later she went back, and she went back into training that same day, and then she was on the show till the end, and she nearly won it. So she be won, but there's a good few. There's lots of others. I would tell you, it's confidential. But so it's a beautiful thing, it really is. And I'll be very anal when it comes to with stuff, with processes and all that, because I'm doing it a long time, Trevor, and I see great people and all that, but I see a lot of wishy-washy shit out there. I really do. Sorry, but I see a lot of wishy-washy stuff out there,
Yeah.
And and my problem with it is, like I had 9 people graduate in the institute there on Sunday, just gone. And you know what I said to them? I said, stay away from everybody for a year, 1 solid year, and get that process you have. Get it, know it inside out, test it, try it. I said, once you're confident in what you're being taught, then look at other stuff, But I find a lot of times people that if they go after they qualify, they have a couple of bad sessions or whatever, don't get the result, their confidence goes, their emotional value drops, and now they're going to start looking at all the shiny stuff out there, like Hypnotic World and get a script for this, get a script for that, get a script for that. And to be honest with you, it's great sight and all that, but if you have to keep getting scripts for different things, you don't really understand what you're doing. That's the way I see it, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about educating the client to fit into that process. That's really what it's about, you know, because again, I would use scripts, you know, but I wouldn't use one for regression because it's burnt in my head. I know it inside out. But
yeah,
if somebody comes to me for quit smoking, I know some people say scripts or scriptless and all this, and I disagree, you know, because what that means is if somebody comes to me on a Monday and I haven't got a script for quit smoking, okay, I'll give them whatever is in my head that day. And then somebody comes in Wednesday, I give them whatever's in my head that day. Now, if I keep giving them the same thing each day, well, then it is scripted, but it's scripted in here, isn't it? But if I'm not scripted, I'm giving different experiences to people for the same reason they're there, which means my results are going to go all over the place. You know, but a lot of people fear regression, right? A lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people would even disagree with, you know, regression exists. It's just bonkers, you know, but that's okay. It's everybody has an opinion. But when it comes down to results, you know, and you know, I've worked with thousands upon thousands of people at this stage, you know. I have a fantastic reputation in the clinic. I really do have a good reputation, you know. And I've worked hard for that reputation. And how did I do that? Well, I don't cheat people. I don't lie to people. I test every session to see if they truly hypnotized. If not, I'll stop the session and tell them you're not hypnotized. It's disappointing, but we'll get them back for the second visit after educating a bit more. May give them an audio to listen to, just to practice letting go. It's not they can't be hypnotized, just on the day they're not, just can't fully let go. Okay.
Yeah.
But if I don't test my work, well, then I'm going to assume they're hypnotized, right? And I'm going to give them a process that maybe is direct suggestion. Direct suggestion is fine for maybe, you know, light to medium anxiety, you know, light to medium depression. You know, you get away with a script for that, you know. But for me, regression is the #1 tool. It really, really is, you know, because again, I every course I do, you're going to have probably 30% of that course is floppers. You know, just bang. They just put hypnosis, just look at them and say, sleep, they're gone, right? And you'll get away with working with people with any sort of script, you know, more times than not, because they have an ability to go so deep inside hypnosis and somnambulism themselves. A lot of direct suggestion can be powerful with those people. But when you're dealing with people who are not somnambulists, who are quite analytical and, you know,
that's right,
in your chair, well, then.
Oh, no, I get them myself. Yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean.
Well, those processes are weak at best, you know. Yeah, like I mean, the only one session I would do is for quit smoking, you know. But everything else is a program. But if somebody comes to me for just anxiety, you're normally looking at 3 sessions, 3 sessions, you know. We'd normally have the anxiety, the cause of it within the first, if not the second, you know. And for them to go off and test it too, you know. So fear lifts, you know, after the first session, if we're happy, we have the ISC, go to a lift, you know. And if they come back and they go, oh my God, 100%, but we still need to get them back and get them to test other areas and then reinforce it, go back, recheck all the work. And by session 3, you know, future pacing, they're normally in really good shape, you know. The odd time that might go to 4 sessions, you know, but anybody, I think, that is doing any more than 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sessions for anxiety, it does, yeah, and it happens all the time. I know people are, you know, they're being booked in for 10 sessions for panic attacks. I mean, come on, if you haven't got to the cause of that within the first 2 or 3, there's something wrong. There really is, you know. So yeah, but again, like, you have to think about regression slightly differently. So every emotion you have is a regression. Every experience we have is a regression.
Right.
So a lot of people say they don't like Christmas, right? Okay, why? Well, let's go back and find out. You'll find out maybe at Christmas time they were home from school for 2 weeks and mom and dad were home drinking too much, lots of arguments, lots of, you understand? So, or, you know, so, or people go, I love Christmas, so that's regression. You know, you hear a certain song on the radio, brings me back to, you know, if I hear certain songs now, it brings me back to Fingless, you know, that's regression, right? So, well, then somebody gets on the plane, they start panicking, well, that's regression too. So, so for me, if people don't really get a regression, we're going to be dealing with symptoms. We're going to be